So if you try to bring in a law that says කනට එකක් ගහුවට කමන්නේ දතක් කැඩුණත් බරපතලයි. කන් අඩිය පිපුරුවොත් බරපතලයි. අවුරුදු එකමාරකට පස්සේ ගිහලා පොලිසිය පැමිණිල්ලක් දාලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. Of course there are instances where the man says නෑ මට ගැහුවේ නෑ. But the medical report says that නෑ මේ මනුස්සයාට හොඳටම ගහලා. I haven't seen one instance where a husband has managed to get a protection order against a wife. Police would laugh at them. තමසේ මිනිහෙන් ගෑණිකින් ගුටි කෑවලු. So many instances where there had been domestic violence cases instituted simply because of breakdown of marriage. Because it has now become a tool.
Good day everyone and welcome to another episode of the Docs podcast. Today I have a very special guest, someone who's close to me both professionally and personally and has saved me out of many a scruffle, many a time. He's none other than my friend and my lawyer in that order, Mr. Thishya Weragoda, attorney at law. Now Thishya doesn't want me to introduce him any more than that simply because අපි දෙන්නගම පටි රෝල් වෙයි කිව්ව කියන්න ගියොත් ඒක හින්දා මේ first of all Thishya, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Suneth.
Right.
Sorry to have bailed on you several times before, but yeah, glad to be here.
Your life, I know your life, and I know how busy it is, so I'm just thrilled that you're here because we have so much to talk about. Thishya and I have a ton of experience we want to share with you, and Machan, the reason you're here is that I want to get into the nitty-gritty of medico-legal advice because මට තේරුම් දෙයක් තමයි ගොඩක් අපේ කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සුන්ට අදහසක් නැහැ අපි කොච්චර legally අමාරුවේ වැටෙනවද කියලා certain medical problems වුණාම. ඉතින් ඔය ඕක වටේ දැන් since I talk a lot about sexual health and men's health and psychological health, I thought it would be a world of good if we discuss a bit more from your and your experience and your advice to people about how to deal with these matters. Let's first talk about gutty cam. අපේ මිනිස්සු ඉතින් අපි ගුටි කන જાතියන්නේ ගුටි දෙන જાතියක් ගුටි කන જાතියක්. I mean we see a lot of these cases in gender based violence, in domestic violence or just violence, right? Where you get hurt. So then there is something that we define as grievous hurt also. I think බරපතල හානි කියන්නේ නේ. Let's hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, so මම හිතන්නේ ඊයේ Facebook එකේ තිබ්බ පිටු 27ක ලියුමක් ඇමති කෙනෙක්ගේ භාර්යාවක් ලියලා where she had talked about how Aya hit her and Aya threw her out of the house and all of it. And she made it sound like it's something which is very normal. Of course, I think we need to look at it in a different light. It seems so normal to people that their partners on a regular basis just the spur of the moment came to gahuwa. And that's all right, that's part of society. But what we don't realize is that that is not all right. That is why somewhere in 2006 or so, the parliament actually doing something wise passed this domestic violence law.
Right.
Right? Of course, we have it has its pros and cons. Some politicians back then said that මේක මේ පෞල් කඩන නීතියක්. But
ගුටි කාගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ කියන්නේ.
ගුටි කාගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ sort of attitude. Which is exactly what අර පිටු 27 ලියුමේ part of it was also.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that somebody who had gone to one of the top rated schools in Sri Lanka, a former prime minister's child, and married to a politician who held cabinet portfolios would know better than that. But no, it's very normalized. I think there lies the problem. අපි ගුටි කන කාලා ඒක කමන්නේ කියලා ඉන්න සොසයිටි එක. ගුටි කෑමේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි අපේ රටේ නීතියේ ප්‍රධානතම දෙයක් තමයි ක්‍රූර අමානුෂික වද හිංසා, freedom from torture, cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment and punishment. That's one of the fundamental rights of our country. So that our constitution says so. Not only that, that is one of the two fundamental rights in our country that can't be abridged. So that is to say that you can't bring any law to restrict it in any way.
Right. Understood.
So if you try to bring in a law that says කනට එකක් ගහුවට කමන්නේ, you can't do that. Of course, එහෙම නීති තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. Those will continue, but අලුතෙන් එහෙම නීති ගියන්නේ නැහැ. So that's the idea. When we say assault can range from a push to a slap to a punch to something far worse. So we break it into sulu tuwala kirima and barapatal tuwala, grievous hurt and non-grievous hurt.
Non-grievous hurt, yeah.
So that is how we look at it. Grievous hurt is an offense where your criminal liability is much more than simple hurt. simple hurt නම් you can be told to go to the සමත මණ්ඩලය කතා කරලා බලලා sort කරගෙන පහර දීමක් shape කරගන්න පුළුවන්. බරපතල වුණොත් يعني දතක් කැඩුණත් බරපතලයි. කන් අඩිය පිපුරුවොත් බරපතලයි. හැබැයි අපි වැඩියම කරන්න ආස මොකද්ද? ටක් ගාලා කන්ට ගන්න එක. Natural instinct අපේ. Yeah, but බරපතල තුවාලයක් කන් අඩිය පිපුරුවොත් බරපතල තුවාලයක්. But how many times have we heard of school teachers slapping kids in the name of disciplining them?
Fathers slapping children, husbands, wives slapping their spouses, where people come with ruptured eardrums. Yeah. This is close to me, that's why I brought this up. I mean, I've seen so many while working for ENT.
Yeah, so, I mean, I once did a case, there was a judgment, Karnapala versus somebody, a school teacher. The ironic part was the school teacher was the Vinebara Gurutuma. Right? ළමෙට්ට ගහලා ළමයා කන් අඩිය පිපුරුවා. He was ordered to pay 500,000 rupees out of pocket for this boy's eardrum. The ruptured eardrum. Right? But no criminal proceedings. The Supreme Court says that the teacher has violated this boy's fundamental rights, which amounts to torture. But he's still in the system. Why? Because the criminal prosecution didn't continue. Shouldn't the education ministry thereafter, once the judgment comes from the Supreme Court saying that you have violated somebody's fundamental rights, commence some sort of investigation and say that, look, you must be fired?
There's no accountability beyond that.
No, absolutely nothing. In fact, I just posted about some Supreme Court judgment where 4 police officers were found,
yes, I saw.
Found liable for the death of a person in police custody.
Yes.
The judgment says how this man had been shot with a T-56 from here outwards. 250,000 rupees each or something like that. I wonder whether these cops are still on duty. I mean, you literally kill a man, no criminal prosecution, all right. And then somebody had asked, කියන්නේ මේ ඊට පස්සේ මුකුත් වෙන්නේ නේද? And I was like, නෑ වෙනවා. සමහරු ගිහිල්ලා පොලිස්පතිවරුත් වෙනවා.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? So this is the system we live in. So
system and the country we live in. Yes,
yeah.
true.
So back to grievous hurt.
Yeah.
So එතකොට බරපතල තුවාල, when you do it, you will get remanded, most likely.
Yeah.
Right? It's very unlikely that you will get bail. And you'll be stuck inside for a few days,
right,
at least. And the process is much more difficult. From a medico-legal perspective, if you're a victim of any kind of assault, one of the most important things we as lawyers say is that you must be prompt in your complaint. මට ගැහුවා මං අවුරුදු එකමාරකට පස්සේ ගිහලා පොලිසිය පැමිණිල්ලක් දාලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ.
හරියන්නේ නැහැ. තුවාලේ වේල්ල එතකොට පෙන්වන්නේ.
තුවාලේ වේල්ලා විතරක් නෙමෙයි. තුවාලේ තිබ්බ තැනකුත් හොයාගන්න බැරිවෙන්න පුළුවන් සමහරවිට.
Absolutely.
Right? එහෙම බෑ. ඒක මේ පරණ කෝන්තරයකට මතක තියාගෙන ගිහලා පස්සේ කාලෙක පැමිණිලි දාන්න බෑ. Right? එහෙම කරයි කියලා වැඩක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Because you need to have the medical evidence to support that position. So what would happen is that you go and complain that look, my spouse assaulted me, my parents assaulted me, something. Or look, some random stranger car එකේ ලෝගනේ යද්දී, we have a lot of road rage also.
Oh yes.
So පාරේදී ගහගත්තා, whatever, you go lodge the entry, you get taken to the JMO. Or you are asked to go to the JMO. ඒ අනකොට දෙනවා MLEF කියලා.
Medical Legal Examination Form.
Medical Legal Examination Form.
Yes.
ඔය ෆෝම් එක අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා දෙන්න ඕනේ දොස්තර මහත්තයාට. ඊට පස්සේ මගේ කතාව කියන්න ඕනේ. This is very important. ඒකේ තියෙනවා සමරි එකක් ලියන්න දොස්තර.
ඔව්.
Patient's history. එතකොට patient ගේ narration එක ලියන්න ඕනේ. And the doctor also sometimes takes down notes separately. JMOs generally take down separate notes to maintain their own files.
Yeah.
ඊට පස්සේ ඒකේ ලියනවා තියෙන තුවාල මොනවද, කොහෙද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ, grievous injuries කීයක් තියෙනවද, non-grievous injuries කීයක් තියෙනවද. And the doctors will say whether it's blunt force trauma or sharp object or whatever that is, they will say. And they will also make notes as to compare whether the narrative given tallies
matches
with the injuries.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's this, I was just reading a document today the patient's history says that this particular police officer put him on the ground and stomped on his neck. So the doctor says in the medical legal report, the patient says that he was stomped. There is an injury pattern which is consistent on his neck that matches the narrative that is given. මගේ බෙල්ල පෑගුවා සපත්තුවෙන් and there is a
පාර තියෙනවා.
බූට් එකේ පාරම නෙමෙයි but ඒකට ගැලපෙන තුවාලයක් තියෙනවා. මගේ කොලර් එකෙන් මෙහෙම කරලා ඇදගෙන ගියේ මේ පැත්ත හිරිලා තියෙනවා. Again it tallies. That is why it's important that you tell the truth to the doctor. Right?
Perfect, yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
So එතකොට ඔය MLEF එක doctor පුරවනවා. And once that is filled, the doctor will report, the doctor will keep that. There's no, and then he will make his summary and keep. And when he or she is required by the court to produce the medical legal report, which is called an MLR, they will fill up the form, give their opinion and submit it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot one more thing. So in that MLEF, it also must say whether you smell of alcohol, whether you are tested for it. So let's say that you go in with injuries, cut injuries, and there is a the wound, they will measure it and write centimeter mecharak palala tuwala tibba. Then they will also say ඇඳගෙන හිටපු ඇඳුම් වල ලේ තිබ්බද නැද්ද, all that. Then if any samples are taken from you, they will record that also. And then where it was sent. So this is all done because when there is injury, there could be a criminal element to it.
Correct, yeah.
Right? So doctors and lawyers, when it comes to this branch of medicine, work together. So of course, sometimes we have seen in courts judges saying, no, we can't accept this medical report. The injuries that this person has sustained and the injuries that is explained are not correct.
Not
so
really, yeah.
we want another report. It could happen. I have seen once saying a judge, I think it was Justice Athugora somewhere in the 1980s during the insurrection. Then medical report essentially says this man has sustained no injuries and there's like tons of photographs showing the injuries.
Yeah.
Then the doctor says we can't believe this doctor. Sorry, the court says that we can't believe this doctor's version. Of course, there are instances where the man says නෑ මට ගැහුවේ නෑ. But the medical report says that නෑ මේ මනුස්සයාට හොඳටම ගහලා.
ගහලා තියෙනවා.
Right. We've had situations where ගහට බැඳලා ඉන්නවා අපි දැකලා තියෙනවා but ඒ මිනිහා කියනවා නෑ නෑ මං කියලා බැඳගත්තේ. That's our country.
Lanka, that's true.
So in that context, this medical legal process is very vital.
And being honest with the...
So if you are a victim, if you are being produced, you must be honest and tell your narration. That could be the difference between finding a perpetrator and not finding a perpetrator.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about when you are the victim of some domestic abuse or altercation on the street, but also if it is පාරේදී policing අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක්. And unfortunately සමහර වෙලාවට වෙන්නේ these things might not happen to somebody in a car. Unlikely unless you really provoke a cop.
Yeah, true.
But it could happen to someone on a motorcycle.
Three-wheels, bikes.
Or three-wheelers and bikes. Because they tend to think that we can get away with it with people like that.
Yeah.
You can be a little bit rough with
that particular rank of society.
But unfortunately, sometimes they don't realize that people in motorbikes are more
violent and everyone has equal rights.
More than that, people in motorcycles might be more influential than
the one in the car.
Exactly.
Car. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, because we don't know who is who. In society, everybody on the road are equal.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't necessarily happen that way. I have a junior who drives a motorbike by choice. And basically he gets stopped by cops and he acts all ignorant of the law, and once the cops start making the mistakes, he says that, look, this is wrong. So that's his atal.
That's a good one though.
So yeah, but you know, the problem in all of this is we sometimes forget that we are all human. Right? There are defenses, for example, provocation, continuous provocation, do various things that you can take in situations, sudden fight, all of that. But the important thing is we must try to not be violent.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
True.
It's always easier to not be violent, though it is hard sometimes, than be violent and suffer the consequences.
Something you've told me, which I live by, is that my liberties end in front of, you told me this ages ago, you probably don't even remember this, but he said that my liberties end in front of the other man's nose. You know, you can verbally abuse someone, but you cannot physically abuse someone.
Well, I don't think I've said that you can verbally abuse someone, but possibly, I always say that my favorite right is the right to annoy others.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
If you get annoyed by what I say, that's on you.
True.
But
ටිපර් වෙන එකයි ටිපර් කරවන එකයි.
නා කියලා මට ගහන්න බෑ.
Exactly. You and I have a lot of adventures on the road. So,
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. So you brought up this very important point. Before we go to that, I wanted to cement on one point he said, which is that even something as trivial, ඒ කියන්නේ කංගඩිය පැලන තරම් සුළු දෙයක් වුණත් can be grievous hurt. ඉතින් ඔය කනට ගහන ආදරයට කනට ගහන අයට මම මේ කියන්නේ.
ආදරයට කණ්ඩ ගහන්න බෑ.
ඔව් ආදරයට කනට ගහන්න බෑ. හරිද? Even with consent කනට ගහන්න බෑ. So please be careful. Please, when you raise your hand, අතක් උස්සන්න කලින් දෙපාරක් හිතන්න, because ඒ වගේ සරල දෙයක් වුණත් බරපතල හානියක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ සරල දෙයකින් you can end up in remand. අන්තිම remand එකේ බාර අස්සෙන් බලද්දි තමයි අපි කියපු දේ මතක් වෙන්නේ. ඒකින්ද ඒක වෙන්න කලින් වළක්ව ගන්න. Just keep in mind that even little things like that can lead to a lot of trouble.
අනිත් එක this whole idea that ආදරයට හදාගන්න ගහනවා, that attitude must at some point change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this case that I said, Karnapala's case, there the Supreme Court talks of how culture has changed. ඉස්සර වේවල් කොටුන අරන් සියඹලාතු කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ අපිට ගැහුවේ වෑන් කියලා. දැන් ඒව බෑ. 1994 Convention on the Rights of the Child වලට ශ්‍රී ලංකාව අත්සන් කරා.
ඔව්. ඒකේ පස්සේ කාටවත් ගහන්න බෑ.
ඒකෙන් පස්සේ අපේ නීතිය වෙනස් වුණා. But I mean it's continuous societal progression.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we have realized that ගහලා ළමයි හදන්න ඕනේ නෑ සා. ඒක නීති විරෝධී කියලා. So ඒ වගේ ගහලා ළමයි හදන්න බැන්න ගහලා වැඩිටු හදන්නත් බෑනේ.
ඔව්.
Right? So ඒක නිසා ගහන්න නැතුව කතා කරලා හදාගන්න විදිහකට හදාගන්න ඕනේ.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Of course, that does not necessarily mean that sudden fights don't occur or sudden provocation doesn't occur. Those are exceptions. There you're acknowledging the incident, but saying that it occurred due to something.
Yeah.
So which will either reduce your culpability or diminish it completely, depends on the circumstances.
Right.
But that is what it is. So that means that you're recognizing that what you did is on the face of it at least wrong. But I was provoked. But it was a sudden fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is sort of a defense. But that does not necessarily mean that you can think about it and intentionally cause harm to someone else. That's what it is.
So leading up on this, what you said about the being honest, there's something I picked up on when you mentioned that about being honest to your lawyer, about being honest to your doctor. Something that I draw upon, I've seen quite happening more and more frequently in current society is that, okay, you take this whole, the whole saga of domestic violence. I see there's a bit of a, I mean, I don't know what to call it gender bias this year, but there's an unfair advantage on the female side where you can claim domestic violence. And even, I mean, the weight of proof is always on the other party. So I always advise my men, because I do speak a lot on men's health and men's mental health. ගෑනිට අත උස්සන්න කලින් 100,000 පාරක් හිතන්න. මම හිතන්න කියලා කියන්නේ අර මානුෂය මෙහෙයුම හින්දා විතරක් නෙමෙයි. මොකද ඕකේ ලීගල් පැත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. තමන් අමාරු වැටෙන්න පුළුවන් පැත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. So සමහරලාට අතක් උස්සපු නැති මිනිස්සුන්ටත් ඔය චෝදනා එල්ල වෙනවා domestic violence ගැන. What are your thoughts on this?
I think from the start of this whole discourse about protection of women and children, we have seen violence being committed on them. We see violence being committed on them. It's a very difficult situation because the moment someone says not all men, then again you are trying to create a narrative that not all men are bad, but some men are bad, but therefore all of them should be viewed with that particular glass. So it's a very difficult thing. And not everyone's circumstances are the same, but the outcome might be the same. The injury to the victim.
Yeah.
Right? So that is why there had been a push and a demand for more protection for women and children, which is why we have a separate unit called the Women and Children's Bureau in police stations.
Correct.
Which is why we also have laws such as prevention of domestic violence. Now, in my almost 18 years of practice, I haven't seen one instance where a husband has managed to get a protection order against a wife.
Really? That's interesting.
I haven't.
Okay.
But I've done quite a number of cases for the defense as well as for the complainant, where the victim has been the wife. Sometimes it's very easy to go lodge a complaint, be it true or otherwise, about a situation like this. And you need very little evidence for that. And we also, one of the other reasons why I say so is, on most occasions, men wouldn't go complain of the violence that has been occasioned to them because the police would laugh at them. Tamase minihedda.
Yes.
Gෑනිගෙන් ගුටි කෑවද?
ඒ ගැහුවේ නැත්තේ. ඔය තමයි අහන්නේ.
I mean, I have a friend who had turned up at my house with scratches all over his body because his wife decided to injure him in that after a fight. The only thing I could do is take a photo and keep for his safety. He couldn't keep it on his own phone. Of course, obviously, we did not go to the police station. But imagine the reverse of it.
Yeah.
The chances are that he would be arrested
Absolutely.
and produced.
Yeah.
Or even if he retaliated to that, the chances are that he would be the villain in that narrative. So it's sometimes an uphill task to defend a man in any of these cases. But it does not mean that all men are innocent in that situation. But we forget the presumption of innocence.
Correct.
And that even in such a case, there has to be some sort of evaluation of evidence. That's why the medico-legal reports and all of that also come in handy.
Correct. Yeah.
You go and complain about something that had happened a couple of years earlier. You're given an MLEF. You don't take it to the doctor. You don't get it filled up. You don't return it. But you expect the police to go and act on it.
Without that, they can't, isn't it? Yeah.
But sometimes the police does. Also, we must remember the consequences of this law. There is something called an interim protection order. So the interim protection order can prevent you from entering into your own house that you share with your spouse. It can prevent you from coming anywhere near your spouse. It can prevent you from walking anywhere near your spouse. Right? It says walking behind in a threatening manner. But who judges that? What is the evidence that is needed?
Who says what's threatening, right? Yeah.
Right? You can be prevented from accessing your own bank accounts. So the consequences are very severe. It may not be in a particular strata, but if it happens in a different strata, it might be very serious. So it's important that you realize that. I'm not trying to say that, okay, be cautious in how you commit a crime. I'm saying don't do it. I'm being very, very straight about it. Don't do it because the consequences are very, very serious.
Correct.
And sometimes it drains you way too much to get your name cleared. We have seen so many instances where there had been domestic violence cases instituted simply because of breakdown of marriage. Because it has now become a tool.
Exactly. Yeah.
It has become a tool of preventing a spouse from accessing children.
Yeah, exactly.
It has become a tool of how a spouse could just cause some harassment to the other side to come into some sort of settlement.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with children also. When you share custody, it can be used in that way. So all of this boils down to the fact of how you deal with the situation. So again, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
But as to your question of being honest to your lawyer, honest to your doctor, if you had, one of the principles in our legal system is that the lawyer-client privilege.
Correct.
That protects whatever that you say to a lawyer.
It's quite similar to the doctor-patient.
It's quite similar,
confidentiality.
but the doctor-client-patient confidentiality may not be applicable if you have to go to court.
Ah, right. I understand. Okay.
But the law says that whatever you say to a lawyer can't be disclosed anywhere.
Right.
So, if you have committed a crime and you go and tell your lawyer that you have committed a crime, it cannot be disclosed. But if you say that I'm planning to perpetrate a crime,
That can be disclosed.
that has to be disclosed. That is the ethical obligation on the lawyer.
Right. Understood.
So, whatever you communicate is privileged, and that conversation cannot be used against you. So, ideally, I can't say whether to go tell everything to your lawyer or otherwise. That's a matter that you need to decide. But it's always better that your lawyer is not blindsided.
While in court, yes.
While in court.
Absolutely.
It's also very important and very, how do you say, wise that your doctor also is not blindsided.
Absolutely. For example, while in theatre. So, yes.
So, yeah, it's a very tricky area. It's a very dicey area.
Right.
Interests ought to be balanced.
Right.
And I mean, think of it from a judge's perspective. There is a police officer or a private party who comes and says, I've been assaulted. This person has been assaulted. He or she needs protection. Court can't also say, no, we must wait until we hear the other side.
You have to protect that person, right?
You have to, on the documentation and material that is available, give some sort of protection. Until you come and get it set aside, you must be obliged to
abide by
that order, otherwise you commit contempt. So let's say that there is an interim protection order saying, don't follow your spouse. Let's say that you share children with your spouse and there is a school event. What do?
You can't sit anywhere close, no?
You can't sit anywhere close. You can't walk in together because the next allegation would be that other person violated the order. Said something, threatened me, whatever. Then what happens? So, better be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Absolutely.
I think that would be the best way to handle it and go about it.
Right.
It's easier said than done.
Understood. But yes, thank you, Thishya. And that was I've learned so much. Despite being his friend for so long, I actually learned so much in this conversation. And my whole purpose here was that I wanted to educate you on where we stand. ඔයගේ ප්‍රශ්න වුණාම ඔයගේ දේවල් අපි ෆේස් කරාම මොන වගේ තැනකද legally අපි ඉන්නේ. And especially කොහොමද සමහර තැන්වලදී where unscrupulous people can, they can use the law against you. So you have to be careful, especially with these protection orders, like you mentioned. That's why I'm saying domestic violence is a very, very dangerous thing. හිතන්නවත් එපා. At least ඒ ගැන එහෙම දෙයක් කරන්න අතක් උස්සන්න violent වෙන්න, because we spoke about hurt, we spoke about grievous hurt, we spoke about the consequences of said actions. ඒකින්ද පුළුවන් තරම් violent නොවි ප්‍රශ්න විසඳ ගන්න කියලා මම ඉල්ලන්නේ ඔන්නෝක හින්දා තමයි. Thank you, Thishya. Thank you so much for coming. We'll have you back. There's so much more that we can discuss. We'll see Thishya again on a different day. If you have questions, ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් mans ඉන්නවා. Please ask, please comment below, and I will raise your best questions with Thishya, and we'll meet him again to talk more about the medical legal aspects that we can discuss. Thank you, Thishya.
Thanks for having me, Suneth.